Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to get going here on our next presentation. And Kara, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, would you go ahead and slide. You should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
Okay, so this is panel one and our first panel over the course of the next few days. And this is exciting because these ladies will also be presenting at the National Main Street Conference. So they're going to be speaking to cooking up economic vitality. And we joke that this is the compressed version because they'll have a little bit more time when they get to national. But these are ladies who are executive directors and 3 different communities across our state. Go ahead and give us the next slide, Kara. And Kara's the techie person, and she's going to be running all the slides for us. So we appreciate your grace and patience as we do this today. So the 3 communities represented are very diverse. They are in different parts of the state and have, as you can see here, very different populations, and also have very different economies. So these communities are Lovington, Tucumcari, and Gallup. So the projects they put together as they began to talk and think through this all have 3 key ingredients that I believe you also probably heard referred to in Sean's description as well of what these projects are. But each of their communities had a need. There was something going on that needed to be addressed related to businesses in their community. They also had local resources that were available or that they could find who would help to make this happen. And then each of them also came up with a plan or a strategy and steps to execute or implement their project. And they're each very, very different and very exciting projects. And each of the ladies will introduce themselves as they present as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Mata.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Mata Salcido. I am the Lovington Main Street Executive Director, and in March, it will be my 5th year. So I'm really excited to get to share this with you guys. Kara, go ahead and get started, please. So Lovington Main Street has an ETS just like everybody else's, but ours is in particular related to our dining and entertainment district. So we want to really create an area where people can come, work, play, and have lots of fun, as well as be able to spend their money here because our GRT is always very low. While we are part of the oil field communities, most of that oil field work actually takes place outside of the city, so we don't get to benefit or profit from that funding directly, right? So we're really trying to create more businesses that can provide that GRT. And our organization has been very likely to offer a couple of different matching grants for entrepreneurs. We have property grants that help them bring up their building up to code, facade stuff. We have all kinds of different assistance, honestly, in terms of financial that we can provide to our entrepreneurs. But what we were seeing was that they are still not opening their restaurants. They're not choosing to go into the entertainment district. They're not choosing to take that kind of a risk, right? And so what we were trying to figure out is, why is that, right? So why is it that even though we're providing funding, they're still not being able to open up their own business and their own restaurant here in downtown Lovington? Kara, next slide, please. And the risk really comes down to restaurants actually fail. percentage of failure is about 60%, and most of them actually will shut down by their 5th year. So when you're looking at the cost of running a restaurant, it's extremely expensive, especially for the downtown district. We're talking about new equipment, bringing up buildings up to code. We're talking about, are they even going to like your concept? Do they like your hours? How do you get set up with menu pricing? There's so much to it that it's a really high risk for our entrepreneurs. And so they don't want to take that. It's just too costly for them. So they were choosing not to do that. Next slide. And so we had this idea. Well, we have resources, right? We know the material. We have connections. We work with the Environment Health Department. We work with the city very closely for permitting. We have mentors. Our downtown restaurant owners already have that knowledge and that experience, and they've been successful. So we have them that we could use. We have all of these different things, except we didn't have a food truck or a space for them to actually test the concept, right? And so next slide. So then we really were kind of freaking out because we were like, this is a great idea, but we need to find a way to put this together. And this is actually when we reached out to Sean with New Mexico Main Street. He really put everything together because honestly, we all had these like little things, but there was no way to really bring it together to develop a real program that businesses and entrepreneurs could benefit from. So we kind of looked at what we were going to need in order to create our program. While yes, you can buy a property, it was too costly. It's too much maintenance. There's a lot of issues with that for our organization. So we decided a food truck can solve that issue. People can come in and test their concept in it. We can do it that way. There's of course equipment, supplies. We're talking pots, pans, spoons, utensils, the whole works. And then the additional cost, right? The food truck is now going to need insurance, registration. How are they going to get water into the food truck? What about electricity? Will we have access to storage? And so all of these things together, we're looking to be very, very pricey. The program, again, was sounding really cool. We're really excited to be working with Sean and to be able to bring that together. But like everybody else, we're a 501c3, we're dependent on sponsorships, donations, and it was just really out of our reach. So then Sean came to the rescue again. Next slide. And he showed us this different grant opportunity that is actually a pretty big one. We were seeing a lot of smaller grants, right, about $10,000. And so that just wasn't going to be cost effective in terms of work. But the USDA grant is actually a grant that is specific for emergent and small businesses. Those are classified as anything with 50 employees or less, and they also make less than 1 million in gross revenues. They try to target rural areas, but their rural areas honestly goes up to about, I want to say 50,000 people. So it's not that small, but it can be. And then the grant size, which was the really important thing for us, was that it varies from $10,000 to $500,000. And so now we were able to fund the entire program. Go ahead, next slide. The really cool thing about the USDA grant is there's actually two portions to it. One is called the enterprise, and then one is the opportunity. They both focus on a little bit different things, but one of the really key points to getting this grant was actually reaching out to our regional director. So everybody has their own USDA regional director, and we called them up. We had a great conversation with them. They were really nice. They actually proofed my application for me before I even submitted it. They also provided me with really cool information, like the enterprise and the opportunity are two separate pots of funding. So you can apply for the enterprise, but then you don't get the opportunity. And there's sometimes more people that apply for the enterprise, or there's sometimes more people that apply for the opportunity. So your pool's more competitive. And then the other thing is sometimes there's more money in one pocket versus the other. And so our regional director, which Ray and Kathy are absolutely amazing. We're like, hey, this year the enterprise has more money, so make sure you word your application for the enterprise grant, or this year there's more in the opportunity. It's all point system based, and so they also like give you little pointers on how to get those extra points so that your application scores very high. And then the greatest thing about this one is that once you're in, you're good to go. You're basically golden. You can keep reapplying and they'll keep working with you as long as you have completed all of your grant requirements and have finished using your funds, then you can apply for the next year. And once they give it to you one time, they'll keep giving it to you. Next slide. And so the overall process for our program, once we had gotten the USDA grant, the first year we got 60 or 75, and then the second year we got 50, and then this third year we got an additional 65. And so all of those funds have been kind of broken out to be able to afford the entire program, but the program itself runs the exact same way. Once the curriculum was developed, what we went ahead and did is we do a candidate selection. So we allow all applicants to come through and apply. We only take the top 5. And the reason for that is we try to tailor to each individual need. So some of them may have already been selling food out of their house illegally, right? Or they may be doing pop-ups, or they may only be giving food to their friends and family and are interested in this as an idea. And so we will select the top 5. Then they go into in-class training, which is the curriculum, and itself is a month. They get to decide the hours because most of our candidates are actually working during the day or have their own jobs. And so we try to be accommodating to their work schedule. We teach them absolutely everything. We talk about menu pricing, customer discovery. They get logo creation. We talk about marketing, location, how to actually use a food truck, permitting, everything. And it's a very intense course, but I mean, there's a lot to it, right? And then they get the opportunity to test their concept for 2 weeks inside of our food truck. We upfront ingredients for them, so they don't have to invest into that, right? And then they get to use the food truck. We give it to them completely for 2 weeks. So they fully are hands-on. It's basically theirs for 2 whole weeks. And then after that, we do a wrap-up session where we get the opportunity to discuss with them what they learned, what were some of the obstacles, did their concept work, was there things that they can modify to improve it? And then once we're done with that, they have a day where they present. So what we do is we get our community leaders, investors, bankers, and just some of the other community members that were integral to the whole entire program, and they get to pitch their idea. This also gives them that chance to really hone down their concept and really be able to tell people, hey, like my business made this much profit, or actually it didn't work. And that way I know now that I'm not going to go into this and I'm not out any money. So the program itself has allowed for lots of different candidates from different levels to be able to go on through the entrepreneur program, honestly, and then we hold their hands through it. So it's really good. Go ahead, next slide. And so for us, our dream is really just, again, to create a place to be where they can work and have fun. Most of your communities are like mine, where after 5 o'clock, everything shuts down and it's empty. But we have the opportunity to really grow our own local entrepreneurs and give them the resources that they need in order to make those things happen. But on top of that, they get all of these other benefits. So for one, they get their food protection manager's card, which is what they need in order to run a restaurant. They get a full logo package, completely catered and tailored to their business. They do not have to pay electricity nor water or any insurance. A really good thing about this is we have a partnership with the city of Lovington, and they provide us free water and free electricity for our food truck program. Like I said, we pay their ingredients up front. A really cool or interesting part about this program is that we actually work directly with Cisco, and they are major food producers or food sellers, and they will not just give you a line of credit if you're just a random startup business. So if you've never opened a restaurant, or if you have a food truck, a lot of times they won't want to work with you because you're just a high risk client. And so with us, we hold that entire line of credit. So Cisco comes out and directly talks to them. They do one-on-ones, and they have that opportunity to create a relationship so that they are able to then, once they leave out and try to open their own restaurant, they have the opportunity to do that with Cisco because they've now established some credit and some background with us. They do pay us the 3% of their profits. And like I mentioned earlier, they do have to reimburse us for the ingredients that they spent. Honestly, though, the 3% fee really goes back to maintaining the program. And then the other thing about it is that it doesn't, it's never been like a huge amount. The highest we've had so far is $500. But that also means that they're making about $5,000 in full profits in just 2 weeks, right? And so they're able to keep all of those funds that they earned during Big Blue. Hopefully it can go towards something like a food truck or opening up their own restaurants. Another really interesting part about our program is that if they need employees, we volunteer. Like I mentioned, they have their own jobs. And so a lot of these entrepreneurs have no assistance, no one to help them. And so me and Star, which is my administrative assistant, we get in there, we cook with them, we food prep, we help them handle their orders, we take orders, we do all kinds of different things just to provide that assistance so that they have actual employees and they can also see what it's going to take in terms of workforce, right? And then the final thing is the mentors. We work directly with our downtown restaurants and honestly all restaurants in Lovington to serve as mentors. We never want them to feel like this is a threat or we're coming in here and we're trying to compete with them. We want them to see that this is a community effort together to improve and move our community forward, right? So we get them to serve as mentors. They have so much knowledge and they really enjoy being able to work with them directly. They tell them things like, hey, like your line's not going to be efficient, so you're not going to be able to produce as much food, or that's too costly of an item, or that item is super expensive and out of season, you're gonna have to change your menu, going over some of those different things. And so overall, this program has really helped us to, well, in my eyes, to grow and restore our downtown rights. This is our third year. We've graduated 8 candidates so far. 4 of them have actually gone on to do more with that. One of them is up and running in their own food truck. And then an additional 2 have purchased a food truck and are looking at for a location. And the third one is in the process of purchasing a brick and mortar. So we're really excited. We're actually having our candidate selection this Saturday and we have 15 applicants. So this is the most we've ever had and we're super excited. So now I'm gonna turn it over to our wonderful friend at Tucumcari, Connie, and she has done another wonderful job with changing up how we can do resources for our local entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Mata. So as Mata said, I am Connie Loveland. I'm the director for Tucumcari Main Street. And if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, there we go. So Tucumcari is a small rural community of approximately 5,000 people. Like many of the communities in New Mexico, our downtown area has suffered a lot of decline over the past 30 to 40 years. And we're working really hard to overcome a lot of vacancies as well as a lot of underused and blighted properties. So one of our updated economic transformation strategies is to foster entrepreneurial and creative economy within the Tucumcari Main Street district. Recently, our district has seen over $1 million in infrastructure updates along our 2nd Street corridor. And what that investment has done is that it's led to an increased interest in individuals who are wanting to open up businesses in that area. We were seeing a lot of interest from individuals who are wanting to open their own business, but they were really unsure of what steps to take to really get that started. And then one of the things that we had was we had this existing revolving loan fund that was really underutilized, and we didn't really have a lot of really qualified candidates that were applying for those funds. So we really wanted to activate that existing revolving loan fund. So a couple of fun things about the photos that are there. Photos 1 and 3 show some of our Great Blocks project updates. And then photo 2 shows one of our new businesses that opened in 2021. And then photo number 4 is our newest addition, and that's going to be Carlson Coffee Company, and it's currently under construction. The building actually sat vacant for about 15 years. So we're seeing a lot of activity right now. Next slide. So what we had some existing resources. As mentioned, we had the existing microloan program that was funded by a USDA Rural Business Development Grant. Through our program, applicants can borrow up to $20,000 at 2% interest, and the funds can be used for building improvements, equipment purchases, facade updates, those types of things. And while it wasn't dormant, the program just wasn't fully being utilized. So we hadn't had any new businesses apply to the program in about the last 4 years. We also had excited entrepreneurs. So we were seeing a lot of people coming in. They had ideas. They just didn't know what to do with those ideas. I had 1 week where I had several people come in, and one of those conversations led me to call Sean, because the person was asking about customer discovery, and I had no idea how to lead them through the customer discovery process. And so that phone call with Sean really sparked the discussion around the need for this program that would assist potential business owners with support and direction through the beginning stages of their business development. And then the final thing that we had was engaged partners. We have 4 financial institutions within our district who are regular partners with Tucumcari Main Street's programs. And we also had really great working relationships with our local community college, the EDC here, and the local Chamber of Commerce and Small Business Development Center. Okay, next slide. So we worked with Sean O'Shea of New Mexico Main Street to create a tiered business accelerator program. And when I say we worked with him, Sean did the work. I think that's kind of been a common theme through all of us, is we really relied heavily on the assistance from New Mexico Main Street. But our program looked a lot like the local Innovator Institute in Lovington. It just wasn't centered solely on restaurants. We are a 3-tiered program, which was designed to position these early stage businesses to receive money from our existing microloan program. And then each tier is a combination of skills building workshops, presentations, networking opportunities, one-on-one coaching availabilities, and then they have a core requirement necessary for them to move on to that next tier. So a fun little thing about why the name Forge and why an Anvil. The name was Sean's idea, but I instantly loved it. If you know anything about blacksmithing or farrier work, a forge is what you use to heat the metal up, and then the anvil is used to shape the metal. And so, you know, that's a lot like what we're doing in our accelerator program. We're really helping the individuals shape their business ideas and then forge ahead to be successful business owners. Next slide. So what did the implementation of the accelerator program look like? Well, about 3 months prior to launch, I began talking about the program with our area resource partners. And I really found this to be one of the key elements of successfully pitching the program. I literally talked to anybody who would listen about the project. I was really excited to be offering it. 2 months out, we started asking business owners and professionals to be mentors during the program. We wanted to aim to have a business mentor at each of the classroom sessions to provide relationship building opportunities. Networking was so important, and we wanted to give our participants every opportunity to succeed in that area. So about a month and a half out, we identified where we wanted to be meeting. We set the dates for the networking opportunities, set hours for our Main Street office to have open office hours. We created the application and the application review process. We created a committee of 5 people to review the applications, and then that committee also served as a review committee at the end of each tier. 1 month out, we started advertising on social media and then with local radio and news. Tucumcari Main Street, we sponsored the local community calendar on our radio station, and we used this opportunity to highlight the program for 2 weeks every single day. So we just talked and talked about it. 1 month out is also when we launched the application. And then 2 weeks from the program start, we held a short webinar with Sean for the applicants just to answer any potential questions that they had about the program and the application process. And then about 7 days out, we closed applications. The committee did the application review, made recommendations for the applicant approval, and then we sent an email to the applicants inviting them to participate and asking them to confirm. Next slide. So what did our program look like? Real quick, like I said, it's a 3-tiered program. Tier 1 is a 4-week-long boot camp style program. The meetings are held twice weekly for 1 hour each. So it's really not a time heavy but it's content heavy. So this photo was actually from last night when Melanie was here. We have a really fun group right now. So we also do skills building trainings, such as what Melanie offered with the storytelling workshop. We do networking with the area resource partners. I do hold open office hours through the week for the participants to come in and talk about the sessions, to assist them with anything, and then just help them navigate through the program. And then during this 4-week, the first year, we do offer a cohort happy hour, which is just an informal time for everybody to kind of get together and get to know each other a little better. Okay, next slide. So tier 2 is all about planning. This is where the program participants really work one-on-one. It's not cohort based. They, the end goal of this is to have their completed business plan. And so usually takes about a month to 2 months, depending on the pace that they work through this part of it. But they are required to meet with myself and like the SBDC, EDC, just to work through this. And again, we hold open office hours on a set basis throughout this whole period for them to come in and meet with us. And then next slide. So tier 3, that tier is just all about the funding. So once they've completed and been approved for their completion of tier 1 and tier 2, we invite them to apply for our microloan program. All right, next slide. So our funding and key partners, really for us, partnerships were really key to this. We did receive a New Mexico Resiliency Alliance grants, and then one of our local banks did do the matching grant for that and completely funded the project. So we utilized Sean from New Mexico Main Street. He was really the backbone of the whole project. Melanie Lindsay, who you'll hear from tomorrow, comes and leads a storytelling workshop. The Tucumcari EDC printed all of our materials and served as a mentor. The local SBDC, we were without a director for our local one. And so Sandra from Clovis stepped in and provided support and one-on-one help for our participants. Our local radio station, extension office, and Chamber of Commerce all provided promotion, excuse me, and served as mentors. Okay, next slide. And so this is the part that I'm really proud of. With our first cohort, I'm sorry, can you go back one slide just for 1 second? So this program was really one of the most cost-efficient programs that we've implemented. We utilized the Tucumcari Main Street office as well as the boardroom from Tucumcari Federal so that there was no fee for a meeting space rental. We spent about $450 on advertising, $148 on materials and refreshments, $125 on our networking mixer, and then we also paid first-year chamber memberships for the participants when they opened their business. Okay, now next slide. So outcomes. We had 3 applicants and 3 participants for our first cohort, and all 3 of those participants have opened businesses in Tucumcari. Barren Wild Creations, which is that first picture they opened, and Appliance Connections, which is the third picture, opened about 3 to 4 months after completing the program. And then our final participant, Cassie, which you see there in the middle, actually closed on her building last week and is aiming to be open by April. So we had 100% success rate with our first cohort, and I think that's just absolutely amazing. So also the creation and success of the program led to an increase in support from the city of Tucumcari to directly support this program. And then on February 15th, we launched the second cohort, and we had more than doubled our applicants from the first time to this time. So we ended up accepting 5 applicants into this program, and we're currently halfway through tier 1. And I will tell you, this group of participants is just enthusiastic. They like to stick around and talk, and they're excited about the program. But just to circle back around, we're committed to growing our local entrepreneurs and really setting them up to be successful and continuing the work of this program so that we can create a vibrant downtown. So that concludes my part of the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Kara, and she's going to talk about the Downtown Gallup Business Hub.
Thanks so much, Connie. I don't know if I can top 100% success rate though. Uh, Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Q. Smith, and I am the former Executive Director of Gallup Main Street Arts and Cultural District. And I'll be talking about our downtown Gallup Business Hub project today, which is a multi-pronged and responsive project that has a suite of programs attached to it. But to start, I want to talk about how they were planned and why. So I'll start with our economic transformation strategy, which of course is a really important component to how we frame our work plan for each year. This strategy of developing downtown Gallup into a commons that welcomes the community to gather, engage, shop, do business, and experience arts and culture is actually a multi-year economic transformation strategy with each year different sub-strategies to execute on them. Some of those key sub-strategies relevant to this project and framing this project are to nurture local entrepreneurs and businesses from inception to expansion, and also to support the physical transformation of downtown. And while that can easily include things like street projects, that also ties into eliminating vacancies, of demonstrating vibrancy, and sort of working directly with businesses to help us succeed in that element. So understanding the need, we had, because of our work in developing an economic transformation strategy around economic vitality and business support, we had sort of started the groundwork of identifying who are our businesses in the district and what do they need. And so we had done a business survey, and so we had an understanding of some data. We knew that there were challenges with marketing, with having online websites and digital marketing. And we knew that there was just sort of business strategy wasn't really a vocabulary that was shared amongst our business owners, and that they really didn't see themselves so much as entrepreneurs. And so we're hoping to really develop that ecosystem and to really develop a program to do that thing that we all want to do, which is attract entrepreneurs to our downtown, but to really build up our local business community as well, to bring them along in that process. And so we did know that entrepreneurs existed in our community. Like Connie mentioned too, we just knew we were there. We heard the inklings of folks coming into our office, or when we're getting coffee at the coffee shop, of people who are interested in opening a business downtown. So we knew that they existed, and we were trying to connect the dots. How can we really plug them into a pipeline of opportunities that we know exist, or how can we fill gaps of things that don't exist to bring brick and mortars to life? So we wanted to be a part of that pipeline. We kind of started collating resources. We kind of launched, we started a connector program, which is really just a fancy spreadsheet that Sean made for us. But we actually started to track what we were doing naturally, which is having conversations in our community, listening to people, and connecting people to resources. So we just started to formalize this and kind of develop the basis for this project. And then to go into that idea of transforming downtown and infrastructure, we also have long-standing vacancies downtown, perceived blight, and it really drags down morale, as we all know, both for visitors, but also for existing business owners. And we wanted to put, if at all possible, a dent in that finally. So we really had a goal of, is there any way we can creatively readapt some of these large vacancies that exist and have existed for a very long time in the district? And then lastly, it's important to note that we had started this planning process and we were getting ready to launch into this project, and the pandemic hit. And so we had to adjust a lot, and we moved quickly in different ways to adjust for that. And that'll come up a little bit in what I talk about as well. But it just amplified the need, and it amplified the way we delivered some of these programs. So what did we have on hand? We had done the business survey. We had the connector program that I mentioned. We had data. We had our MRA plan, our cultural plan. There was a market analysis plan underway. Sean had done some work even getting some Esri reports for us about visitor traffic. We were just about kind of like customer demographics. So we had stuff that we just needed to put in one place, and we had a better understanding of kind of what the need was in our district. We also, I just wanted to mention that when I'm saying small businesses and entrepreneurs, there is an underscored emphasis on arts and culture. As an arts and cultural district, the creative economy is incredibly important to the fabric of our business community. And so I just wanted to note that every time I'm saying entrepreneurs, I kind of also mean artists and small businesses, kind of creative businesses and businesses that focus on arts and culture. So we had a relationship with the community that we were building just through all of the other work we were doing, and that was continuing to grow. And so we were able to also start to communicate and reciprocate and to build partnerships productively that helped to build the basis for this as well. And we had, because of COVID, we just immediately launched things. We launched a microloan program that I'm not talking about today, but we just did things. We were able to be responsive and we were able to sort of start doing work that tied in to this project and kind of bolstered it as far as doing direct business services. So through the New Mexico Resiliency Alliance funds, we were actually able to launch some business workshops and microloans right off the bat in the spring of 2020 when COVID hit. And we also had capacity. So there, I was, as an executive director, I just was there and was able to pick up these pieces and to sort of move them forward and sort of keep balls in the air. And I think that's just, I also was able to work when I needed to work. And I think it's just important to note that too, to move this forward. And so those are the resources we had, and we identified some things that we still kind of needed. So we wanted a strategic plan, a place to put all of this, to put all the words together. We had an idea to have this hub. Is it virtual? Is it physical? We're in the middle of the pandemic. Can it be physical? But we had an idea to, which I'll talk more about, to like create a physical space for a resource center. And so we knew we were going to need funding to sort of start implementing these programs to develop business support services. And we knew that we needed to be scalable and flexible, first and foremost because of the pandemic, but also because we wanted to learn and be responsive to our community. So before I get to the plan and what we did, I just want to say that in the midst of all this, communicating is really important. I know that Connie and Mara probably touch on this as well, but I just went for it. I wrote a press release about how we were developing services for businesses, and I shared it with our elected officials. I reached out to the local press we had. I wrote an op-ed. I talked about our district and our great small businesses and their resilience on our local public access television show, which was filmed in the district. I do not know how you actually watch that though on TV, because I didn't have a TV. But and then I also, thanks to a partnership with Millennium Media radio station in the district, participated in radio programs there and regularly released PSAs twice a month about the work we were doing. So what we did next was, while we're doing all that, we also put everything, we developed a prospectus. Well, Sean really developed the prospectus thanks to his brilliance, and that, organize all of the program components that we were thinking through, use the data and the research that we had at our hands, put outcomes and benchmarks into place, but that they were kind of scaffolded so that we could hit them and evaluate as we go. Developed a budget that we could start to lean on as we assessed what funds we needed and how we could fundraise for this. And we also, within that, I developed a list of potential funders and just started applying, continued local relationship building, taking the opportunity to speak at Rotary Club, presenting, communicating with our city council members about what we're working on, and just really, really kept that work going, even when the state was shut down and everything felt really dead and kind of morale sunk. We just kind of kept pushing this through to try and help keep the momentum going. We also rolled out programs, which I'll talk about in a minute, as well as resources allowed or needs surfaced. We had to pivot a lot, mostly because of the pandemic, and switching things from ideally meeting in person to virtual offerings. Okay. So the project culminated in what we call the Downtown Gallup Business Hub, or the Resource Center. And I'll say it's been called many things along the way, and that's okay. As much as I care about branding and communication, it was responsive. It kind of shifted as we did, and as we were able to accomplish things, or as we received funding. So you might even see it in this presentation references several things, but it's an umbrella project that I refer to as the center, but that was going to provide workshop and support services to entrepreneurs, existing business owners, and it was going to have an office. And what the idea was to take over a vacancy downtown. So to pop up in a vacancy and to sort of show vibrancy, to demonstrate use value of buildings. And so we embarked on how, or complicated that may or may not be, in hopes of doing that. Or we also had plans, if that didn't work in a vacancy, to pop up in an existing business, share space, share retail space, etc. This also fed into and kind of synergistically related to a large, our 2-block revitalization project, Collating Commons, which is mentioned here. So I just figured I'd call that out, but I'm not focusing too much on that today because of time. So one of the first things we launched, in fact, we launched this right as the state shut down. It was planned in person, and it pivoted to virtual, was entrepreneur boot camps. And this is a way of really starting to jumpstart our ecosystem for entrepreneur support and gathering people, allowing them a space to network and to receive some training. Sean led these workshops. And so we led 3 iterations of these virtual boot camps for aspiring or existing business owners. Participants received one-on-one mentoring, and also the chance to participate in a pitch session where they received seed funds. So we had 15 participants, and I think what's cool about this is that it was actually several existing business owners took these workshops in the district. And I think that's great because it kind of invigorated this entrepreneurial spirit within them, especially when we had most of our business are multi-generational. They've been there for a very long time. There's sort of this staid way of business there. And we wanted to sort of reinvigorate that, or sort of reinvigorate different language around that. So we ended up distributing $2,500 to 6 entrepreneurs through this program. We also launched business workshops. They were all virtual, though the hope, of course, was to have them in person. And we were always at the ready to do that, but never had the opportunity. So we launched 18 virtual workshops with about 40 participants, a lot of overlap there in different workshops. The key areas of focus were marketing, business strategy, and property redevelopment, all playing into this goal of sort of kind of increasing the capacity of our local businesses to do business better for themselves, and also to upkeep their properties, beautify the district. It was important here that we had these workshops led by local and regional facilitators, and one of the strategies for me was to look to anyone, our local institutions, so the newspaper, the public radio station, the local university, to find local expertise that could lead these workshops, someone who was really connected to the community, embedded in the community, who didn't come in from elsewhere. And that was really, really successful, although we did also have workshops led by Melanie Lindsay, as well as New Mexico Main Street revitalization specialists that were super successful. But it was really nice to sort of have this peer-to-peer sort of learning opportunity for our businesses and entrepreneurs. We had several businesses, as well as one entrepreneur from the boot camp, take all of the workshops. So it essentially ended up being like a cohort of folks who went through this entire series of workshops, which is really cool. And from that, we really saw some results of websites being built, social media presence growing or starting for promotion, which was so crucial during the pandemic, as we know. Also just increased camaraderie. It's a little understated. It's a little bit of an intangible, but that's just really important, especially during trying times. And lastly, we supported probably district business owners of about 20, and then there was a handful of entrepreneurs and other folks who joined from outside the district. Of course, being virtual, there was no limitation that you had to be from the district to take them. We welcomed folks from other communities as well. And then as part of the hub infrastructure, besides the programs, where does it all live? And so we had a 2-pronged approach to that. One is the Business Hub website, which we worked with a graphic designer and developer to build on our own site that was sort of really thoughtfully designed with the journey of an entrepreneur and the journey of a business owner in mind, to centralize all of the resources that we were connecting people to, as well as the resources we were building and offering for ourselves. And it also hosted data that just kind of was scattered. All that data I mentioned that we used to build this program, we put that here too as well, because that's important. In my opinion, if you're looking to start a business, if you're trying to strategize, of understanding community demographics, of understanding, you know, just overall who customers are, and kind of what the landscape of business is in downtown Gallup. This website also just kind of created an energy. It was an opportunity to write a lot of content, you know, to write a mission statement for our economic vitality services, and to sort of just see everything in one place in a different dynamic way. It acts as an archive as well, which is super important when you're moving fast and doing this work, you know, especially for reporting and such. And its potential, I feel, has not yet been realized. It was built, and I think it still holds more. It was a learning process. Design is tricky. It's complicated. It was hard to get something perfect, and it's hard also when there's a vast digital divide, to lean solely on something like a website as a tool. So it's really a tool for a specific recruitment and maybe for a specific set of business owners, but I knew very well that this wasn't going to be a website that was so vastly utilized, just because I understand that digital literacy is a complex problem, especially everywhere, but especially in the Gallup area. So then we also had a physical hub, which is the Downtown Gallup Pop-Up Business Resource Center. So after a lot of outreach and to property owners and creating a presentation about this project and all of its benefits, I found a willing property owner to partner with, and with lots of fits and starts, getting electricity going and getting the water turned on and getting heat in the space. And so I learned a lot along the way, which is valuable, because that's what aspiring entrepreneurs go through as well when they open a brick and mortar downtown. So I learned a lot there, but we made it into a space and developed a great relationship with the property owner. We were able to, I don't have the before photo, but we basically got the space cleaned up, put investment into it, and opened what can be co-working space or office space for small businesses. It had a suite of tech equipment in there, laptops, iPads, photography equipment, and other digital tools for doing video or editing. We hosted drop-in training for district businesses. This took place in person, but as the pandemic ebbed and flowed, it also largely took place virtually. And a lot of the times, honestly, as is very important in a lot of communities, I feel, is we ended up going to businesses versus them coming to us, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. And then it also was very much developed, and plans were getting put in place amidst the pandemic to become a pop-up retail place. So to start really carrying that pipeline through for entrepreneurs who are interested in testing the waters downtown, to do something for a month at a time in space. So it definitely felt catalytic in a way of just seeing the lights turned on in a vacancy. It was kind of intriguing to have foot traffic come in, to be able to talk about the project with people, to have a presence in a different way. Our office was just 6 doors down, by the way, but because this was new, I think people stopped in more often. We ended up connecting with 5 businesses that were interested in that vacancy in particular, but also other vacancies downtown. So really started developing relationships with property owners in a really dynamic way. Supported multiple businesses with one-on-one marketing assistance through this program, and was also able to hire a part-time staff person to keep the center open and run programs, who now helms the ship at Gallup Main Street. So that was a great outcome. And I should also, just mention that through this partnership with the property owner, he had long wanted to redevelop this space, and this project reinvigorated his desire to do so, and he moved forward on plans to do multi-use retail, living, and restaurant space in his buildings. This office space is just one sort of section of a very large building, he owns. And then from there, the hope was to grow, to continue the pop-up center in another vacancy, or to secure a more permanent space for the center, to evaluate how we can monetize it through facility rentals or fees, and to see if it can be managed full time and really be fully embedded into the Gallup Main Street sort of mission and business model, or work with another entity or entrepreneur to run it. And so those were sort of the gating goals to like evaluate as we go. So this is, we were lucky to receive multiple sources of funding here. Most importantly, New Mexico Main Street Consulting, which really helped this whole process come together, as well as really great relationships in our own community, some of which are just as simple as helping us communicate, but that all helps build the momentum. And I should say that Sacred Wind Communications is a fantastic partner. While we did not receive internet completely in kind, they were in a place where high-speed internet is not really a thing that exists. They made it happen in that space, and they drilled through walls and got on the roof and installed a huge wired antenna thing. And in that space in downtown Gallup, you can get very reliable Wi-Fi. So now we wanted to close out with lessons learned, and I'll kick it off by just saying, brand it till you make it. I was constantly, as I mentioned, calling it different things. I was pitching it constantly. I was writing press releases. I was, communicating with the media. So I just go for it. I think it all helps. It helps you as well as others understand what you're doing. And one person is all it takes. Excuse me. We had one person start in the boot camp, take the workshops, connect with the resource center, and open a brick and mortar just outside the district. But so we had one person go through that whole thing, and that to me is a huge win. And keep your finger on the pulse, but eyes on the future. We really had to do two things at once. We had to be really responsive, respond to our community, meet our community where they're at, but we had to always also know that we're trying to build something better for the future of downtown Gallup. And now I'll pass it to Connie.
All right, thank you, Kara. It's hard to follow you. you had a lot going on. So some of the things that we learned, just entrepreneurship is for everyone. So prior to becoming a Main Street director, I had absolutely zero formal economic development training. I had been a loan processor for 12 years. I had no idea what a business model canvas was or how to walk somebody through the customer discovery process. But what I did have was a network of people that I was able to connect with that helped me through that process. And so I think that was really important. And it gave value. So, me not having that formal education in that area, so many people that were coming into my office, they didn't know either. And so being able to relate to them and then connect them with, Sean and Melanie and these people that are really good in their fields was really important. And then the second thing was just communicate. I think Robin even said it the same way. And Kara said it, Mata has said it, like, you have to talk about your projects. You have to be able to have your elevator pitch down. And, that's something that we talk about. Melanie does a really great presentation on that with our program participants, is just, knowing your story and being able to share it. And in fact, she shared a quote last night and I was like, that is perfect for what I wanted to talk about with communicating. And it's to succeed, you have to persuade others to support your vision, dream, or cause. Whether you want to motivate executives or others, you have to be willing to share your story. And that comes from the CEO of Mandalay Entertainment in his book, Tell to Win. How to connect, persuade, and triumph with hidden power stories. So just being able to tell your story, to connect it, it's going to be hard to connect it to different people, your local financial institutions, your elected officials, you have to be able to pivot just a little bit when you're telling your story to each one based on, what that connection is that you need from them. And then the last thing is that partnerships are key, and Robin really hit on all of that with her presentation, so I won't go into that too much, but just build your network and be willing to ask for help from them. So I'm going to turn it over to Mata.
So definitely going to say some of the same things that they've said, because again, these are key ingredients. And I think at the same time, these often become like the same kind of obstacles or struggles. Advertise all the time, any way you can, 100 times. I remember I was like, I'm so tired of saying this, but I would over and over and over and over again. And I would stop people, what is the big giant blue truck in front of the theater? And I'm like, let me tell you. And so you really do need to take that time to advertise and create a good marketing plan that you can execute, network. All of our entire program literally has a connection with another organization. We're working with the New Mexico Junior College. We're working with the Lovington Chamber, with West, with SBDC, working with the New Mexico Health Environment Department, the city. Everybody has a role and a place inside of our program. And so creating those relationships so that we don't have to do everything, and we don't have to pay for everything is huge. Time. Our program, actually, we started working on this back in 2019, was really when we started working on it, and we did not kick off till 2020. So it definitely took us a lot longer than I wanted to, or what I thought it was going to in our head. But if you need that time, then go ahead, just take it, because it'll really make a difference in the long run. And then some of the other things that they said too is pivot. Like, our program started out a lot different to what it looks like today. And even as we continue every year, we've changed things, we've added things, we've adapted whatever we can in order to make sure that the program continues being relevant for our entrepreneurs, and that we're not just like, oh, this is exactly how it has to be, because things happen. And so it was really good for us to be able to do that. I think with that, we are ready for questions and comments.
Ladies, there was a question in the chat that someone wanted to know if you translated any of your materials into Spanish, or if you had to do anything with handicap accessibility.
We didn't have anybody that asked in Spanish, but that is something we could offer and would be willing to offer in Tucumcari. And then the handicap accessible, a lot of our stuff, because of COVID, we had to do it, our sessions virtually. So I think there's room to do that if needed.
So we don't have our materials translated, but I do serve as a translator. Last year was actually our first year that we had a Hispanic couple that only spoke Spanish. And let me tell you, my rancho Spanish is not the same as professional Spanish, but we made it work, and we did a lot of Google Translate. I would call my mom and be like, Mom, I need you to tell me how to say this, because I'm not saying this right. But we were able really to just work it out. They have done amazing. They actually do pop-ups all the time, and they're saving up in order to get their food truck. So we're really excited. So it is possible. It does take a little bit of extra work, but it's worked really well for us.
Awesome. Well, we are running super tight on time. If anyone has any questions, you are welcome to email them to me, and we can make sure they get answered. Just to let you know, this presentation will not be available to download on the website because of it's being translated and used for the Main Street Now conference. It's coming up in, is it in May, I believe, in Virginia. So thank you all for being here. We were going to have a longer break, but it looks like we're not going to be, we're going to tighten it up a little bit. So the next thing that's going to happen is the coalition meeting for the Main Street and Arts and Cultural District leaders. If you're not with Main Street, you are welcome to stay and sit in if you'd like to. They work on the legislative piece of everything we do for Main Street, and you can learn more about it there. They would explain it much better. So if you'd like to stay for that, you're welcome to. You don't have to. If you decide to leave, we'll see you back here tomorrow, same link at 1 p.m. We'll do this again. We've got some more great panelists and speakers coming tomorrow. And I'm going to go ahead and let us go. We'll close that. Oh, thanks. Mata put her email in the chat, as well as Connie. And you're welcome to email them directly as well. So how about if we give you like 5 minutes? So why don't you come back like at 4:05 instead of 4 o'clock for the coalition meeting? Okay. Thank you, everyone.